United States Navy Secretary John Phelan has been fired. That's according to an official and a person familiar with the matter on Wednesday. The move marks another wartime shakeup at the Pentagon, coming just weeks after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ousted the Army's top general. The Pentagon confirmed his departure, saying Phelan left the administration effective immediately, though it did not give a reason or say whether he chose to step down. His firing was first reported by Reuters. Sources said Phelan was dismissed in part for moving too slowly on reforms to speed up shipbuilding. The Navy is under intense pressure to expand its fleet. China's shipbuilding industry now dwarfs the U.S., which was once a global powerhouse. One source cited strained relationships with Hegseth, his deputy Steve Feinberg, and the Navy's second-ranking civilian Hung Cao. The Pentagon said Cao will now serve as acting Navy Secretary. The source also cited an ethics investigation into Phelan's office. A billionaire with close ties to President Donald Trump, Phelan is the first Trump-appointed service secretary fired since Trump returned to office last year.
Iran on Wednesday seized 2 ships in the Strait of Hormuz. It comes a day after U.S. President Donald Trump called off attacks on Iran, with no sign of peace talks restarting. According to Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency, the action was taken by Iran's Revolutionary Guards for maritime violations. An Iranian state-run news network had more.
Based on the IRGC's statement, these vessels have been transferred to the territorial waters of the Islamic Republic of Iran for the purpose of inspecting the cargo and documents.
This is the first time Iran has seized ships since the war began at the end of February. Late on Tuesday, Trump said in a social media post that he was acting at the request of Pakistan to, quote, hold our attack until Iran's leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. He added that he would continue the U.S. Navy's blockade of Iran's ports and shore, which Iran's leaders have said is an act of war. Throughout the war, Iran has effectively shut the strait to ships other than its own by attacking vessels that attempt to transit without its permission. Tasnim said Iran had not asked for a ceasefire extension and repeated Tehran's threats to break the U.S. blockade by force. Meanwhile, in a show of defiance, Iran showcased some of its ballistic weapons at a parade in Tehran on Tuesday evening. Crowds waved Iranian flags as the weapons were erected.
A rigged election took place last night in the Great Commonwealth of Virginia, or so said U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday. He took to social media after Virginia voters approved a redistricting referendum on Tuesday, a decision that could flip up to 4 Republican-held seats in the House of Representatives. Trump, without proof, blamed mail-in ballots for the outcome of the vote. But Democrats welcomed the move, which increases their chances of winning control of the chamber in November. A Virginia court, however, blocked the state from enacting the new districts, saying lawmakers had not followed rules for the redrawing. That comes after the Republican National Committee sued to block the referendum and will probably mean a final decision by the Supreme Court. It's all just the latest in a tit-for-tat battle by the parties over redistricting in various states. George Mason University political expert Jeremy Mayer says it's a dangerous road to travel.
So the legislature of a given state draws the lines for each congressional district. And in other states, gerrymandering has been very common, i.e. drawing lines with political intent. And I once explained this to members of the British Parliament, and one of them said, well, that's not the voters choosing their representative, that's the representatives choosing their voters. And that's what gerrymandering ends up doing.
The redistricting arms race began last July when Republicans in Texas heeded Trump's call to change the state's congressional map in hopes of flipping 5 Democratic-held seats. California responded with its own move to flip seats in favor of Democrats, and other states have followed suit. Here's Mayor again.
So the Democrats are saying gerrymandering is bad, but letting Trump win through gerrymandering is worse.
Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has called a special session next week to consider redrawing that state's map.
To the prisoner transport vehicle, or if you resist arrest, you are unlawfully in the roadway and obstructing vehicular traffic. Since you have refused to leave the roadway, you will be placed under arrest on the charge of disorderly conduct. Rising for the children and the fossil empire. And the fossil empire are the rising tide. History is on our side.
Two people died after a chemical leak at a silver catalyst plant in Kanawha County, West Virginia on Wednesday. The incident occurred at catalyst refiners in the unincorporated community of Institute. One other person is reported to be in critical condition. More than 30 people, including 7 emergency responders, went to hospital, some as a precaution. Ben Salango is Kanawha County Commission president.
Preliminary information indicates the site was in the process of shutting down its operations, and cleaning and decontamination activities were underway in preparation for the closure of that site. At this time, it is believed that a chemical reaction occurred during that cleaning process that created hydrogen sulfide.
Salango added that there would be national, state, and local investigations into the incident. The plant is owned by Ames Goldsmith Corporation. According to reports, the company's president said the 2 people who died were employees. The corporation did not immediately respond to Reuters' request for comment.
Russian oil flowed through the Ukrainian section of the Druzhba pipeline on Wednesday, according to Hungarian oil group MOL. The resumption allowed Hungary to lift its veto on a $105 billion EU loan urgently needed by Kiev. The Druzhba pipeline has become one of the most politically charged pieces of infrastructure in Europe. Oil flows to Hungary and Slovakia were suspended after a Russian drone strike damaged the pipeline in western Ukraine in January. Shortly after the pumping began, EU ambassadors meeting in Brussels approved the loan.
Well, I think it will not be easy at all.
Karen Karlsbro is a Swedish member of the European Parliament.
The Ukrainian needs are huge, are still enormous, and we have to provide them with a much larger financial support, also a more sustainable support.
The European Union's 27 member states are expected to formally sign off on it by Thursday afternoon. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the EU's decision was the right signal under the current circumstances. The EU had agreed in principle to the loan last year to maintain Ukraine's liquidity through 2026 and 2027. But Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban and the Slovak government had blocked it. They accused Ukraine of delaying repairs to the pipeline, which Kiev denied. Both Hungary and Slovakia are heavily dependent on Russian oil, and Orban has consistently shown support for Russia. As the two countries expected the resumption of oil flows, Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico said trust had been severely damaged between Slovakia and Ukraine, adding that Slovakia did not agree to the loan.
Nutella was a long shot, and she is one that I seriously did not think was going to make it. In addition to having the horrific fibropapilloma tumors on her body and her eyes, she was entangled in fishing line to the point that she almost lost the flipper due to lack of circulation and had ingested a lot of fishing line. So it really is a miracle what happened today, seeing her go back into the wild.
Tesla sharply raised its spending plan to more than $25 billion for the year as CEO Elon Musk pours money into artificial intelligence, robotics, and chips. On a post-earnings call with analysts Wednesday, the billionaire said the moves were, quote, well justified for a substantially increased future revenue stream. Shares in Tesla fell over 2% following the remarks. That reversed gains of up to 4% seen in extended trade earlier, after the company reported a positive free cash flow in the first quarter. Tesla is in the middle of one of the most expensive bets in its history. Musk has pivoted the electric vehicle maker's focus to building AI-powered self-driving cabs and humanoid robots. With a raised spending plan, the company expects cash flow to turn negative again for the rest of 2026. First quarter profit also topped Wall Street targets, in a sign that the electric vehicle maker was holding the line on costs in a difficult global environment. Tesla delivered fewer vehicles than Wall Street expected, but deliveries were still up about 6% from a year earlier. The firm's car automotive business has come under pressure as competitors introduce newer models, often at lower price points.